Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show for February 6th, 2019, 2019, because, as we established last week, the 15th is going to be bonkers. There's so many games happening. Then we had a surprise game, Apex Legends, come out. Fortnite Season 8 is hitting next week, alongside, Anthem's Early Access on PC. Help me out here, Crackdown 3, Far Cry New Dawn, and
Metro's coming.
Metro. It's a wild time to be playing video games.
The Division is coming
on the computer. Yeah, we have this week. There's Division 2. Is it the private beta? Is that what they're calling it?
I believe so. Yeah. It's not a demo like Anthem.
yeah. That was clearly a demo. But let me introduce you two before we get going. We got with me today Wes Fenlon, features editor. How are you, Wes?
Hello. Waiting to talk until I've been introduced like a
professional podcast.
Who is this man with the luscious locks speaking to us today?
Oh, I'm James Davenport. I don't think I introduced myself ever anymore. I should do that.
Everybody knows it's James.
It's me at this point. Then with us is Tim Clark, brand director for PC Gamer. What an honor to have you here with us today, Tim Clark.
Pleasure to be back, James. Thanks for inviting me. Live and direct from PC Gamer's New York office, of which I'm the only member of PC Gamer.
We're all just distant.
That's not true. Actually, some of our hardware guys are here.
That's
too.
true. I lied. Doing good work.
Tim, have you considered a PC Gamer tattoo yet? / at what level of authority do you have to be before it becomes just an obvious move?
Whereas if you want to get cut together, just say the word. The whole team head out to a little tattoo parlor in Brooklyn. What would it say?
Well, if
James,
you
got a game tattoo.
Yeah, I got a Portal tattoo on my back. I'm not going to show it right now.
I was going to make people guess, James.
Oh, sorry. Apologies. Well, it's a Portal tattoo. It's the aperture sign, and maybe I got it a little too naively because everyone who sees it. Sometimes it's summer, and I'll go to the river and float with the crew, and
is this true? Or is this
you don't have a river crew.
Is this from your wish book?
Shush! All my friends are there. Anyway, but passers-by will see my Aperture logo tattoo and be like, "You Canon or Nikon?" And I'm like, oh, "Okay." I think I'm a camera boy. I think I'm a so it kind of backfired, but whatever. Some people know.
James, what would it take for you to get an American McGee's Alice tattoo?
Oh, fuck.
Is the tattoo of Alice herself, or does it have to?
It has to be of American McGee while he's designing Alice.
Oh my god! I'll get that. No, I won't. Never. Yeah, man. Remember when that game was really, really cool, and the aesthetic wasn't bad?
Nope.
I remember a goth girl I knew in 10th grade playing it, so I guess it was cool within a particular circle.
Yeah,
that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was also popular in my. There was a time when cool was determined by cover art, and that was how you decided what to buy, what to play in the first place, and that meant I played Fable. That meant I played Alice because that was cool as fuck, right? I saw the Disney movie.
I can't believe Fable is like the olden days of games.
It's bad. It's weird.
I'm old enough to remember going to the shop, having to beg my mum to buy games that were on cassette tape, and your purchasing decision was made almost entirely off the back of two screenshots on the back of the box, which would invariably be from the arcade version of the game. And when you got home, let me tell you, it bore no relation to what you're actually receiving, if the game loaded at all, James.
And what are we complaining about today? That we have to download another launcher?
Yep. Oh, that's why the art for Atari games was so incredible, because it had to be pure imagination. They had to sell you on that imagination so hard that when you were looking at the 4-pixel tank, you were like, "Yeah, I can see it. This is it's like real war, man. This is cool."
It is. It's true. Anyway,
and now we have graphics.
We got good graphics. Holy shit! Some of these graphics are good these days. Like the pixel density on card backs, for instance, it's incredible. I never thought I would see the day. Speaking of card backs, a quick rundown of what we're going to talk about. We're going to open up, obviously, with our highlights of the week. Some things that we thought were neat in the world of gaming. Then we're going to talk about Apex Legends, Respawn's surprise battle royale game set in the Titanfall universe. A lot of us have been playing that, especially me. I'm playing it for review right now, and I am having a great time with it. We're going to talk about Anthem's, our brief look at Anthem's endgame, and sort of look at what we know about it in relation to other games, similar sort of endgame tracks, and maybe talk about what Anthem needs or doesn't need to be the game that we choose above all else. And then Tim's gonna spread his disease to some lucky players.
No context required.
No context required.
Yeah, should probably say which game, James. Or I mean, it can only be one of two games. So.
It's Hearthstone. There's as I understand, there's a viral card back that you get from playing with people who have it. And guess what? Tim has it. So we're gonna play a few rounds of that and spread the love, so to speak.
Yeah, if you're watching or listening live, you're going to need to be on the EU server, but you'll be able to challenge me direct. I think the card back has actually spread pretty far already.
Yeah.
But if you are still thirsty for it, can't get one, then we'll be closing out the show with a bit of that. I'll give you my Battle.net name, and then you can send like death threats to my mum when I'm least expecting and all sorts of stuff.
I hope you have two-factor on your account.
James is actually using like a Smurf account.
Yep, I've got his Smurf account, and we're gonna observe that way.
Perfect.
And while we do that, I think we can do some listener Q&A to close out as well, as we watched him share the love. But let's start off with our highlights of the week, and why don't we start with Wes? You anything interesting happening in games for you this week?
Hey, yeah. So I've mostly been playing Apex Legends. Actually, went and saw it last week before the announcement, but we're going to be doing a whole thing about that. So I want to talk about Resident Evil 2, which I finally started last night. And I would say this is the telling thing for me in just how good this game looks and how like immediately pulled into the atmosphere of it. I've had the same like 144 hertz monitor for like 3 years or something at this point, and this is the first game that made me actually like go into the monitor settings and go, okay, is this shit calibrated like exactly the way it should be? Like, do I have the brightness right? Do I have the contrast right? Do I have the color balance right? Because I want that like perfect ambiance in Resident Evil 2, walking through the police station, like it being almost too dark, but actually being able to see with the flashlight, all that stuff. So I probably spent half an hour of the 2 hours I played that game last night just like fucking with the settings and stuff to get it perfect.
I imagine if your monitor, Wes, is 3 years old, it's not HDR, but I think like the last Resident Evil had really good HDR support as well. It did really well with the kind of that super high contrast of kind of like light bulbs popping in the darkness and stuff. Really nice.
Yeah, my monitor is not HDR, and my TV is, so I'm kind of thinking like maybe I should try running it on the TV at some point. I'm sure it would look amazing.
I'm still unsold on HDR as a tech. Like I think so much of it comes down to like the art team on a particular game or a TV show and a movie and how they implement it. Like done badly, I think it can look worse than standard kind of color.
Sometimes it looks like one of those like an Instagram photo with a oversaturated filter. It can be a little too jarring at times.
Yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda was a really bad example of that. To the point when I saw it demoed, I was like, this definitely looks worse. I should have been like the canary in the coal mine for that game. I knew things would go wrong for it.
You knew.
HDR was the first sign. Yeah, I haven't done much gaming in HDR, but I've watched like a decent number of TV shows in it, and nothing has really wowed me except for Planet Earth 2, which Microsoft cleverly sent out with the Xbox One X when it launched to everyone, just to make them see a really good implementation of HDR, but it kind of ruined me for anything else because Planet Earth 2 just looks insane in like a 4K Blu-ray HDR. Nothing else has come close from what I've seen so far.
Wasn't that their strategy with, remember the HD DVD Blu-ray battle? I think Planet Earth initially, the first series, came out on HD DVD, and you had to buy like an extra thing for your Xbox 360 drive.
Oh yeah, it was an external. It was an external player that looked like a miniature Xbox 360. It was a very ugly add-on piece of technology.
I actually owned one of those and had forgotten about it until right now. What a disaster! That is one of the worst. One of the worst pieces of technology I've acquired. Next closest being the Xbox One.
Oh shit!
Which is not
a bad position. I just don't use it.
Right.
I still occasionally watch like Giant Bomb's mailbag videos where they just go through random stuff people send them, and invariably somebody will send them just like a box full of HD DVDs from 2007 or whatever. It's like thanks a bunch.
This is your problem
thanks
now.
For that.
That's good. That's good.
But yeah, Resident Evil 2, man, that game feels really good. The gore system is so disgusting.
It's very good.
I mean, it is gross, but it feels I enjoy it so much more than like Mortal Kombat 11, where I look at the trailers for that game and I'm just like, I don't want to play this. This is just nasty.
Yeah.
And Resident Evil 2, even though it is really graphic, doesn't hit me the same way. I guess it just thematically it feels more appropriate and isn't sort of it's supposed to be creepy and gross and not just like, look how funny it is when this dude's like fucking pancreas gets ripped out of his body or whatever.
This sounds wrong, but the gore system like is less gross to me and more grimly satisfying in Resident Evil 2 because every zombie, I don't know, the physicality of them and like just the texture of their skin, the way they move, it makes them, they're like, and how they absorb so many bullets before their head explodes or something flat. It's almost like they're a pimple ready to be popped. It taps into some sort of like ASMR, I don't know, mindset with me. And when I do blow off their arm,
I don't know what kind of ASMR you're listening to, but I think you're doing it wrong.
Hey, don't hate. It's just nice when you kind of clip a zombie with your shotgun and its entire arm just sort of the skin flies off and you can see the exact like bullet spread and their skin is dripping literally and it's terrible. It's amazing.
I did kill one with a headshot and his head like just kind of splintered open, like flapped into two pieces, and it reminded me of like the T-1000 in Terminator 2 where just a fleshy version of like him getting shotgunned or whatever in the head and his head just like flapping open like this. And like that was a really cool moment. I was also impressed that in the opening scene I got like bitten in the shoulder by one of the zombies, and throughout the entire like cutscene of Leon and Claire like in the car driving to Raccoon City, it kept the decal, the damage on his jacket and stuff. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, a lot of attention to detail in that game. I finished up
cool.
Leon A, and I'm working through Claire B. Is that how it works? I think, and having a great time.
Did either of you at all kind of miss the first-person perspective and hillbilly shtick of the previous one? Because it feels like they very much that now looks like a failed experiment, even though we all, the critics I think quite liked it, but it clearly didn't resonate as much as this is doing.
I really missed it because I think I still think the opening third of that game was incredible. Like, getting chased by Jack throughout the house and being able to see, like, the first person perspective really let you get a look at his face, and they were super emotive and detailed characters. So being chased by a guy whose expression you can make out across, down a hallway, while he's, ribbing you is, I think that was sort of unparalleled in terms of like video game horror game bad guys.
Yeah, hopefully they haven't abandoned that approach. I mean, that was a very different Resident Evil for sure, at least that chunk of the game and being in first person. And I don't think the Resident Evil 2 remake was ever going to be that because they want it to be faithful to that original game. But yeah, I hope when they do, that seems like a ripe territory for spin-offs. Like maybe Resident Evil 8, they're going to try to bring back in some more of the, the main characters and make it a bit more in this action-y
I disagree,
hybrid approach.
Having like a sense of how Japanese development works, I feel like when an experiment goes wrong, it's never revisited. Like that would be that for that kind of style. And like, I think if it had been a success, you would have seen whatever game you would have seen this kind of release be the doubling down.
More similar.
Yeah, and I think this is like it's a retreat into the familiar, which has been well received. So like I would fully expect to see a do-over of Resi 3, or maybe
sure.
imagine they go back to Resi 4, right?
People keep saying that, and it just makes me mad. The thought of like that game does not ever need to be
remaking
remade.
RE4. Yeah.
Maybe in another
I still wouldn't
20
be surprised
years.
if it happens.
That's making me feel very old right now, and I don't like it. Don't like it at all. But cool. Resident Evil 2 is a great game. I'm glad it's doing very well. Tim, any highlights of the week for you? Anything stand out?
Well, like Wes said, we're going to talk a little bit about Apex Legends later. I haven't played as much as you guys, but have certainly enjoyed what I have played, and also as someone who's been working in games for a long time, enjoyed the whole kind of circus around it. You know, it launching amidst a kind of colander of leaks, but also it was still, you know, a lot of fun and a big surprise, and it's kind of great to see everyone playing the same game on the same day. It being free to play was a big part of that, but still wasn't enough to cure my Destiny addiction completely.
Oh, boy.
I earned the blacksmith title this week, James.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Do you know about that?
I don't know what that means.
So you have to complete like loads of really, some tedious and some hard challenges, like lots of them, like a whole kind of like a couple of pages worth of like Chivos, I guess they are, but like there's stuff like finish the raid without anyone in your raid team dying. During that, I had to be sent to orbit during the driving section because I'm so untrustworthy during the driving section. So you could kind of like, glitch me out and then glitch me back in. Half the team stayed, half the team left. And then you had to like, I'd forgotten that you had to get like basically 1,500 kills with different weapons in particular places. So on Sunday, I basically sat there and did that, and then wondered what I'm doing with my life, basically, just because it's all to get just basically like a purple ribbon with the word blacksmith over your name. That's it. That's literally all you get for it. But they almost like it's almost so minor that it makes it more prestigious. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So I had the raid previously the raid designer, but now one of the lead game designers, Joe. I don't want to pronounce his name wrong. Gagarath, who I interviewed a while back, tweeted me to say that I was an inspiration. So that was
you are. That is inspiring. For sure.
I mean, I'm an inspiration in the same way that, like, Keith Richards is probably an inspiration to heroin users.
You can do it.
Proof that you can maintain a lifestyle while at the same time being in the grips of a crippling addiction. So
there you go. Well, I'm happy you're talking Destiny because, real quick, anytime you come on the show, it's like my time to check in and see it. Can I get in there and have fun now? Like, because I have not been paying attention.
Right now, no is the answer.
Okay.
It's like it's really quiet. They're between expansions. So like, we've kind of finished up everything there was to do in the Black Armory, and now we're waiting on Joker's Wild, which is due to come out in March. And I think the concern amongst those of us still playing is that expansion is going to be quite themed around Gambit, the PvE versus P mode, which was fun, but I'm not sure we want the whole expansion of. And I'm putting that quite politely. Hopefully it's not all Gambit, but we'll see. I'm worried about March generally because there's so much going on. We've got GDC and a bunch of games coming out like very soon as well. So
busy time.
I don't know what I'm worried about. I'll still just play Destiny. I'm worried for the other games, I guess.
Oh, cool.
Well, they don't stand a chance. Yeah.
Congrats on your blacksmith title, Tim.
Oh, I am going to play Division though this weekend.
Oh yeah. Shoot.
Yeah. Chris has hooked me up with a code because I think like if you're in, you can invite 3 people, but like the Anthem VIP one. But I tell you what, the Uplay system for code redemption is hot trash. Like I tried to use just the regular.
How can it even be bad?
How can it, Wes? I'm going to tell you right now. You get the code. You would think you input it into Uplay's. Hey, you've got a code. This is the code redemption section. No, friend, that is not how you do it. You have to go through the website through a separate section, then make sure you have like a verified email address. And even though like my email was verified on the Uplay site to the point where it had a green tick going, you have verified your email. Every time I put the code in, it went, you did not have a verified email. When I finally got it working, it went, yeah, this code doesn't work. It just said, like, that was the message. This code doesn't work. Cool. So then like I just freaked out. But either way, hopefully I get in there. I'm really looking forward to playing it because I wasn't really. I fear for Anthem having played it, and I'm more optimistic about Division, even though I think it will have some of the problems Division 1 have. I think what I've learned with these looter shooter games is that it takes the dev team like 3 or 4 years to get the head round what the end game should be, what their kind of core loops should be, how systems interact with each other in a kind of way that's going to keep people playing. And I feel like we're going to talk about Anthem endgame shortly. I feel like Division probably has a better chance of getting that right than ours.
I'm with you there.
I'll definitely like give Ubisoft shit for the kind of generic degree to which they, put design across a lot of their games, open world stuff, but they are probably the best in the industry at iterating on their big games and like adding new features to them and improving them. And I think the Division 2 will probably show that off, that they like did a pretty good job with the first game, made mistakes, fixed them post launch. And with this one, I'm betting they're going to, get a lot of that stuff right that wasn't perfect the first time around, and actually have a game people want to keep playing for 6 months, a year, whatever.
By the end of the life, well, it's still going, but by the end of the original Division's sort of like 2-year, 3-year lifespan, it became very, very good in the back end. And
yeah, I think that's exactly it. These games can almost only improve once they're in a live environment. By then, very, very kind of drip iteration. Sam Roberts, the UK EIC, published a good piece this week about why is actually a good time now to get into Division 1, like as a kind of primer for Division 2. It's like the game is in its like best state. There's lots of different modes like Survival and Underground that got quite fleshed out. It's much less obviously buggy than it used to be, and I think you can even earn some stuff in Division 1 now that will kind of carry over to Division 2 in the form of mostly like cosmetic stuff, but some kind of cool stuff to do while you're waiting, although it's not very long. It's cheap as well. I think it's been going very cheap.
And if you play that game for, say, the next 2 or 3 months, then by the time you actually play the Division 2, instead of doing it right at launch, they'll probably have fixed whatever, the most egregious launch issues that these games inevitably end up having.
Stagger them. Genius. Cool. We'll talk more Division shortly. Excuse me, I'm sure. But let's talk about Apex Legends. And if you've been living under a rock and don't know what the hell Apex Legends is, it's Respawn's battle royale shooter set in the universe, the Titanfall universe specifically.
The universe.
It was surprise announced and released on Monday, with some hints over the weekend and leaks from various influencers, it seems. But it's been out for a couple days now, and we've been playing it, and it's pretty fucking good. So I think, first of all, I want to know, because I think we've all played it. Just hit me with like your first impressions. Battle Royale is like this busy, almost. I feel like we're getting to the end of the window in which you can make a Battle Royale game, unless you do it on something the level of Apex Legends. So I think we were all a little tired and skeptical going in. But I want to know. Hit me with your feelings on Apex Legends.
My main excitement was that it was Respawn. Of FPS studios, they're ones who've consistently, with their work on like Call of Duty, before they split from Activision, they kind of did the Modern Warfare way back when, and subsequently obviously with Titanfall, they kind of developed that kind of hyperkinetic style that became really popular, like low time to kill. Although the time to kill is actually fairly high in Apex. The thought of them taking on what's now become like such a kind of established trophy genre was really interesting, and I think the initial expectation was that it'll have mechs in and wall running and like that, for people played it last week like Wes. Obviously that's not the case, and there was some interesting explanations. I heard one where I remember who it was at Respawn explaining why they hadn't done wall running, and Wes, jump in if I'm getting any of this wrong, but they said that being able to do traversal that easily actually removed kind of a big layer of strategy, because if people could be anywhere, then if you saw someone duck into a house, you couldn't be sure they would still be in the house. So it kind of removed that ability to then go, all right, well, this is how we flank the house. We know he's still in there, because he actually could be like on a tree 50 yards away in the time it would take for you to decide that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't, despite having been a Titanfall fan, I was much more fan of the campaign in the last one. I think a lot of people were. I can't pretend to be part of the kind of Titanfall multiplayer community. I know some of them were bummed out that it looks like they might not be getting a full Titanfall game soon, but just seeing like Respawn's taken it being so kind of, it felt so good initially and ran so stably on seemingly like just decent computers, in stark contrast to kind of what we'd experienced with their stablemate Anthem, um, with their recent demo. The whole thing just felt like kind of a breath of fresh air to me. I know, James, you said it was kind of like a refreshing break from Fortnite to you, but just to have a game drop out of effectively the sky, not to try and put a pun on it, with no real fanfare, no hype beyond, a few days kind of rim and run. It just felt like a really nice kind of start of the year pick me up to me.
It feels really confident in a way that I feel like
ballsy Wes.
Yeah. I mean, plenty of games, like even Apex Legends, they're like, oh, we're listening to the community, all that stuff. But I feel like so many games kind of launch with that mindset and that sort of messaging of like, oh, well, if there are problems, like we'll fix them, like this is the start of our journey together. This is, we have so much more to come. And like, yeah, Apex had that stuff too. They have a roadmap for updates for the game, but there was no wishy-washiness around that launch. It was just like, yeah, we have the game. We have enough characters that we're confident in, team matchups being interesting and balanced. Here it is. Play it right now. Download it. It's live. No bullshit. Nothing. And
Evan made the point that they aren't calling this early access or anything like that. This is just a game that is out now, and this is their game, right? And I've seen so few, technical complaints at all, really. Not even kind of server stress type stuff. And I know that my other half was on the same trip last week as you, Wes, and she was talking to some Respawn people and saying, are you worried about kind of the going live, there's going to be such a kind of influx of excitement and people and things falling over, and they just kind of like you said, confident is the word. They were kind of like just grinning, kind of going, yeah, we don't think we're going to have any issues, because I guess this is a team which has run multiple multiplayer games cross-platform successfully for years now, so they're kind of very much battle hardened, and you would trust them to get something like this right, which is still no guarantee, as we've seen from plenty of other launches.
Yeah, there, other than some like minor disconnection issues and stuff, like very basic, limited problems, it has been the smoothest launch I can remember for a game in quite a while.
What were the things, Wes, you liked most about kind of the twists it made to the genre? I think a lot of people have spoken about like the ping system, obviously the character system as well, as kind of sort of throwback or bastardization of kind of what Overwatch does. And you've got ults and you've got signature abilities, passive abilities, and stuff.
Yeah, the ping system is definitely my favorite, just like clever bit of design they have implemented in that game. I mean, I haven't played many battle royales, but I have played plenty of Overwatch and lots of other shooters. And when I went to the event last week and saw that, their initial pitch is like, it's a battle royale, and I'm like, okay, there's lots of those already. And then they're like, with hero characters. I'm like, wow, how many, kind of trendy, like hot game design items can you cram into one game, right? But it's all in the implementation. And I think that's where it really proves like their skill and their quality as shooter developers, that they can take something that feels like kind of a rote idea and execute on it really, really well. So, maybe in the future, this game has lots of different modes where you can play solo, you can play with big teams. I don't know. But right now, it feels really confidently designed around the 3-person squad, in the way that the character abilities work together, in the way that they're sort of balanced to let you have a certain amount of extra mobility from a character like Wraith, who can create a portal from one place to another that kind of offsets some of those limitations that you don't have from not having like the wall running from Titanfall, right? Because you can really flank a team and get behind them if you use that ability well, but that's a choice you have to make in your play strategy by having that character on your squad, using that ability, knowing how to execute with it, rather than it just being something that everybody can do all the time. And it's impossible to keep that in your head, but it is possible to see an enemy team and go, they have a Wraith. I know that she's going to be able to go invisible. She's going to be able to make a portal and try to sneak up on us. So we have to account for that in this firefight.
Have you guys been mainly playing with kind of two friends, or have you been going in solo queue?
Yeah, well, so I've done a good amount of both, and I was worried because I have played a lot of Fortnite public squad games where I'm just teamed up with 3 strangers, and it's a nightmare, especially with voice chat on. It's just it's just one racist preteen after the next. You know, edgelords trying to make a name for themselves online. Beyond that, the communication tools just aren't there, right? You can like sort of ping locations, and you can call out like, I need ammo, I need this, using the emote system, but it's just like very hard to play together, and there's no incentive to play together, and you rarely see that in Fortnite, which is sort of considered like the battle royale right now. But in Apex, it, like, whether I'm playing with a team of people I know or not, I seem to be just fine. Like, let me think of an instance. Yeah, like, so playing with Tim and Wes and you guys, like the ping system sort of, I think, encourages conversation naturally. It encourages you to like not just ping something, but to say it out loud and like add, you know, like if you see an enemy in a certain direction, you might contextualize what you saw. But even without that, with, you know, in a squad of strangers, it's enough. You can hold down the context or the ping wheel and add more context. Like, I think there are pings for something like might have happened over here, which is
like an enemy was here.
Yes.
Yeah. Or I'm guarding this area.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, and
that was one of the things that absolutely blew my mind when playing Anthem, is that there were like some light puzzly bits where you would be like, if you were playing on your own, you would be matched up with a couple other randos, and like you had no way of communicating with the randos bar voice chat. There was no like in-game text chat. You couldn't. The puzzles were too complicated for you to be able to use emote stuff. It was like kind of matching colors to portals and stuff. And like when I was playing the demo, like as quickly as I was doing the solution puzzle, the other guy was like undoing it, and like I could have been there for like days potentially. I had to like run as fast as I could to like puzzling. It seemed like such an insane oversight. And then you compare that to like things in Apex, like they just feel like well thought through. One of the things I really like is the way it kind of auto applies the gear as you pick it up. Yes. Just whenever you pick up something of a higher rarity tier, it will kind of just slap the scope or the stock on. Or if you try and pick up like armor that's worse, it will just go like, what are you doing? That's worse.
Stop. Yeah.
But it means you don't spend the whole time, you know, in your inventory just swapping stuff out left and back and forth. You know, it just feels that stuff felt really nice. And I liked, as someone who's like a battle royale kind of noob, I like the three player structure of like, you know, you have a jump leader who brings you into the map. You can kind of split off, but it's probably not that advisable. And you kind of it just felt like relatively painless playing with one or two strangers. It didn't feel like infuriating. And I also got that almost like Blizzard, and a lot of it gives me kind of Blizzard vibes in terms of the slickness of these design decisions. But the communication particularly, I think just being able to pull up that wheel and go, there's the enemy, or tag items. You don't need much more than that, right? They've really thought through like what are the core bits of info you need to impart to the people who are being shot at with you.
And they build some of that stuff in really like passively too, like the fact that if you're inside the circle and then the outer circle starts closing in, but you're in the safe zone, one of your characters will remark like, oh, we're good, we're inside the circle. And like that's a really cool thing that you don't even need to pull up the map, because you just get this passive bit of information.
It's
of like
really nice. It's such kind of subtle but effective design. Love it.
I think another thing we should talk about that, like the jump master, the squad structure, and how it like sort of eases the anxiety of playing most other battle royale games, is the respawn system. Have you guys had much?
That's probably my favorite addition, and like that's the thing that really proves the idea of the squad system being like, there's a reason this is the core of the game and why it should stay this way, is because it gives so much meaning to that idea of being able to bring people back.
I like being the whole thing about being rezzed. I know that Evan was a bit worried about what that would do to the kind of the rhythm of the game and potentially make it kind of very grindy, just people rezzing their teammates over. The the way it times out, and then you have to pick up the banner and then take that to a res station, kind of mitigates against that in a really nice way, and also kind of ensures there's a kind of, you're encouraged to stay in the game and spectate and hope that your teammates kind of do something clutch to bring you back in. You kind of you come back with no you lose your gear and your weapons, which is a nice kind of punishment in inverted commas.
Yeah, it's quite risky too.
It's almost Dark Souls in that, like, you can go pick up your inventory if you have the time, and it's not in a risky spot too. It's
you also get, if you are playing on comms with people, like the inevitable, like, come back and get me, you coward, why are you running off? Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like a game very much built to create those little kind of shareable stories, you know?
I've already had a couple games that I've lost, and in hindsight been like, I should have run. But I was playing one with our writer Steven last night, who died and like went down, and I'm like, okay, if I hold my position, I can probably then go get his tag and hopefully revive him. But I just got closed in on and taken out afterwards, when if I had just written him off and gone, no way I'm going to be able to get to you, sorry dude, I got to just get out of here and press on, I might have been able to escape that situation. But I was paralyzed by that choice of like, oh, maybe I can respawn him and like swing this around, and in that case I should not have listened to that instinct. But I like that that's the thing you have to think about in the game, and there's a risk there that's worth taking if you can actually get away with it.
There's a whole design loop based around how much do I like Stephen Messner.
He's a good squad mate. We played a couple last night. He
too much. I learned my lesson. Got to write him off.
You just got to let Stephen go.
Yeah. So what things about the game do you guys not love right now? Like, I think the aesthetics of the map and stuff are really cool. I love the character designs. I think a lot of the skins are pretty meh.
Not surprising.
I think given that it's going to be a game that's financed entirely by cosmetics, I'm surprised by how boring the cosmetics are. They're not like bad, but like, given that they kind of borrow the legendary, rare, epic tier from Overwatch so clearly, I feel like what they've missed is kind of those the highest rarity stuff in Overwatch does really nice stuff with the geometry. The characters really do feel different, the special skins, to the point where you're excited to look at them and you can, identify with a particular one and really want to make that your skin. I didn't feel that really at all going through the Apex characters. I like the characters themselves. There's some cool stuff there. I really like Mirage, the decoy guy, and Bloodhound, the Plague Doctor dude, and I really like the design. I just didn't feel like they twisted the design enough to the point where I didn't feel like the cosmetics were compelling at all. I didn't feel any compunction to spend on it, that would be their biggest problem, I imagine, because they've got like a lot of players. They're saying, in the first few days there are over like 2.5 million players. Look, you would expect there to be a huge amount of interest. There was a lot of interest when CS:GO launched its quasi battle royale thing. So it'll be interesting to see how those numbers hold up. And the other question is, like, we've seen Fortnite grow to become an absolute behemoth, and like James was kind of alluding for another BR, and I think the answer is probably yes, but I don't know. When I say room, I don't know how close you can get to that kind of performance, but the answer is maybe quite close, because before Fortnite made its famous like pivot to battle royale, people would have probably thought PUBG was pretty in a pretty kind of unassailable position in that genre, having popularized it after H1Z1 and stuff.
Yeah.
What I don't like, I think, is the time to kill, which it's not that I don't like it, it's that I'm bad. So like, it feels terrible to me when I kind of dump an AR into someone's chest, but like miss all my headshots because I'm trash, and then they turn around and shotgun me, and I just feel bad. But like, that's probably more a me problem than the game. But I'm interested to know how you guys feel about that, particularly, like whether characters have too much health. Or
I think it's a little mushy, and I don't know what the solution is there, because there have been multiple times, maybe like it's specifically a weapon class that needs to be buffed or changed. Like the shotguns, there's very little incentive to get in someone's face, because people can just eat like 4 shotgun shots, maybe like 2 nicely aimed ones if they have purple armor, or something like that. And that leaves you exposed the idea of a shotgun is the risk of getting in close exposes me, but I do high damage. And that's sort of like lost when when you have to reload 4 times, even with long range weapons like the sniper rifles and such, the time to kill is a little too high for me because, or at least the damage numbers, because I don't feel a lot of incentive to approach combat at long range when I ping someone and they're so far away that they can just get cover easily and heal up instantly, and now they know where I am. There's something I don't know, a little muddy in how, like, the incentives for engaging combat at different distances and the time to kill at those distances. I think maybe it's that way because it's doubling down again on the squad play design. Like, everyone's mushy because teams should be focusing fire together, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it reminds me of, I mean, Halo is like the multiplayer shooter I've played by far the most of in my life. And when you played those games well in multiplayer, if you weren't shooting the same person at the same time, like, your team was probably gonna lose because it was all about overlapping fire and taking somebody down really fast. And I think I have been killed very quickly, even with like tier 4 legendary armor in this game. Yeah. So there are definitely people who know how to take me down in just a couple shots very, very fast. And I'm not doing that to other people yet. I'm not good enough at the game yet to be doing that. Yeah. And I think there is some mushiness, like you say, James, largely from the armor system, which is just kind of an element of these battle royale games where they want to give you a reason to look around and find loot, and they therefore want, for rarity, purple tier armor to give you 4 slots of defense, and that's way better than 2 slots. But until you start shooting somebody, you don't know how many bullets they're going to be able to take, and that's just they do a good job.
Is there anything else you guys have found to be especially effective in terms of kind of strategies or team comp?
Not quite. I think Wraith is almost always like at this point, Wraith feels like a must-have, or at least Pathfinder, because they're good for mobility. They can get you across an arena or a big space in a short amount of time, or at least like let you kick off a flanking maneuver, a surprise flanking maneuver. They feel pretty essential. I think I'm forgetting his name, but the big burly guy who can drop a shield,
Gibraltar.
Yeah, that's pretty clutch, I've noticed, because there are a lot of big open areas, and you can, like I said, take pot shots at people from pretty far away and do decent damage if you're coordinated. So being able to just like shield yourself real quick and have a second to breathe is pretty essential. I'm also like the Witch Doctor scavenger type is super, super essential in the end game, because you'll
Bloodhound, excuse me.
Bloodhound, all these ways. But because that ultimate in a small space lets you basically see where everyone is, and that's super.
But you need to call them out to your team, right?
Yes, yeah, I believe so.
So that's a key thing. Or you can just go ham and try to kill them all yourself. Yeah. But if you're trying to play with the squad and you're in a dangerous position, being able to accurately ping where the enemies are after using that ult that lets you basically wall hack, is great.
A lot of these abilities have blind spots too that like require or incentivize like talking to people and pinging, because Wraith's Shadow Realm ability where she goes invisible, enemies disappear when she does that. You can see the environment. So the idea is that while you do that, your teammates are telling you where everyone's at and pinging, or at least describing. And Bloodhounds, like Wes said, ultimate is very helpful, but you are calling positions out to your teammates in that regard. And I don't know if there's like, it doesn't feel like Overwatch in that like each ability is so clutch and necessary that it's going to be this like hardline competitive meta when it comes to squad composition. Everyone feels, with the exception of Caustic, the gas throwing guy, I haven't really seen him used much in interesting ways, or maybe he's just like a super advanced class. Everyone seems to like have pretty equal utility, or at least like in most situations. So it's just a matter of like having a decent spread of abilities, like one mobility ability, one that's maybe a little bit more defensive or support based, and another that's information based, like Bloodhounds. So I hope,
or just being really good at shooting.
I agree with that, James, as well. Like, I haven't played, like I say, a ton of it, but so far I haven't felt like, oh, that ability is ridiculous. Why am I dying to that? Like that shouldn't be in the game. Like they feel like interesting additions to characters that kind of can help define a particular playstyle that will be your preference, but not things which, like you say, are like, well, you just got to have that guy because it's always going to swing the battle in a particular way.
Yeah. So I don't know, it's in a good spot right now. It's surprising how it's just a surprising thing to have like a game release in the battle royale genre that works extremely well, feels very good, has almost no performance problems. I know it's a little hard for me to run on at 1440, but I have a 980 Ti, so maybe I'm just outdated. And
do we have a sense of what's coming in the battle pass? I know that was
we don't have a real sense, but it seems like they're doing the Fortnite thing in that it's going to be like a track of challenges, or at least like a track, some kind of hierarchy. I don't really know, skill or reward system where you'll earn cosmetics, potential. I don't know, like if they're gonna put characters in there or not. I wouldn't think so.
They said it's all cosmetics.
It's all cosmetics.
They said, yeah.
Okay, that's good. And
so you'll be able to get some. I believe they said you'll be able to get some cosmetics through the battle pass that you couldn't get otherwise, like that you're not going to get just in a random loot drop.
Yeah,
but it's not important stuff.
That's where all the sweet skins are going to be.
Yeah, and that's the case with like Fortnite. It's fun. It's like not like it's not a major sign that you're like the coolest kid on the block when you have the tier 100 season 2 skin, you know. Well, they didn't have it then, but season 3 or 4. But it's you know, it's like I was playing then, and this is a cool thing I have that shows that, and hopefully the cosmetics are worth the time investment of whatever challenge based reward system they have in place when that comes out. I really hope that they capitalize on their setting and the Titanfall universe, and even if they can't do something like Fortnite's live events, I hope they do something iterative map changes that at least like make the map feel like a more dynamic, like not lived in, but you know, live arena rather than just a static map, DE Dust 2 forever and ever, amen, you know, because that'll really keep people interested over the course of seasons. And I really hope also that they increase very up the loot table. Like some of the grenades right now are pretty basic, but I think there's opportunity for, like, the thing that I love about Fortnite is like every update almost like it, at first glance, breaks the game. You're like, oh shit, I have to completely change how I think about playing now. And I really hope they aren't too worried about perfect eternal balance and get a little playful and let themselves sort of I don't know, break it for a day or two in the name of fun, or at least experimentation. So it's going to be interesting. I'm betting
they'll be a lot more conservative than Fortnite in terms of introducing like new weapons into the ecosystem and stuff. But they have already said like they have new plans to put in other weapons and stuff. Cool. So we'll see some. We'll see some
of reverence. But we'll see.
I just want that gun from Titanfall that was like the giant, just shot like an energy beam out that could just nuke a Titan. I want that just for people, just evaporate somebody.
High school weapon.
And they have come out this week, right? EA, you listened to the earnings call, I think, Wes, and said there is something Titanfall related coming later this year, although like clearly that's not Titanfall 3. This is something else.
Yeah, premium Titanfall, so it's not going to be like a free to play game, but it sounds like it is a Titanfall game of some kind,
like a Titanfall match 3 or something.
Who knows?
Oh my god! No, we said yesterday a Titanfall card game, but the interesting twist is that you play a big card and you put a little card inside of it, and that's the
powered up.
That's how piloted Shredder works in Hearthstone. That was always the kind of there were mechs which had little pilots.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Let's build a whole game around that.
I can already feel James glazing over.
Let's move on. Like I could talk about Apex forever, I think, but we'll have plenty more time to talk about it in the future. Let's run through. We won't spend too much time on Anthem, but I do want to at least talk about it for now, and then we'll get to Tim spreading his love shortly after. But I got to play a about 2 hours, an hour of Anthem's endgame. Or some endgame missions at an event hosted by EA. 2 weeks ago or so. Like I think it was right before the demo came out, and it kind of gave it's a quick glance at like what is going to be there at least at launch for people to do in once you complete the campaign and you want to keep playing and playing on higher difficulties, get better loot and so on. But first of all, I kind of want to know, like from you two, because we have Wes here who's sort of like a Monster Hunter guy, right? I'm playing that quite a bit. And Tim, who's like obviously our Destiny, well, pretty much every game like this guy. And I want to know from you, like Wes specifically, what about Monster Hunter like keeps you playing despite like how, you know, you're not fundamentally doing anything too different throughout?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly just how fun the combat feels. And like you're fighting the same monsters over and over again a lot of times, but the added challenge of when they put out a new tier of it, even certain tiers, they'll add like a couple moves where they have some abilities they didn't have before, but largely you're fighting the same stuff over and over again. And it's just how different is this fight if I'm using this this set of armor and abilities and this weapon versus this other one. And to some extent, I've gotten into the sort of the fun of the grind of like, okay, I want to learn, like, I've decided like I want to learn longsword. So I don't have a good longsword right now. What are like the top longswords? Do I want to do one that, focuses on crit damage, or do I want to get one that's like good against certain monsters with a certain element? Okay, I need to go fight these 5 monsters to get the parts that I'm going to need to craft like that best longsword, and then I'm going to need to learn how to like play it well in different types of scenarios. So it's really just a game of like the repetition is you learn enough from doing it, and it's mechanically satisfying enough to just be fun to do over and over again. Like I've played, when I start with a new weapon, I'm like play against a certain monster and I'm like, oh shit, like Rathalos is flying all the time. And if you're playing against like a tempered one or something, then you can't flash bomb them all the time to bring them to the ground. I'm playing with a weapon with a super short reach that makes it really hard to just land hits. Probably not the best weapon for this matchup for my skill level anyway. Like next time I fight him, I'm going to use this other weapon.
Right. And
just have like building that mental library of what are your favorite matchups has been really, really satisfying for me.
Okay. So Tim, what's your ideal game scenario?
I would agree with everything Wes has said there, which is why Wes is a gentleman amongst thieves. A huge amount, if you're expecting to play a game over and over again, and at the point I have played like an insane amount of Destiny, a sick amount, a disgusting amount. It's unhealthy, it's wrong, it's against God, and yet still I go on. And a big amount of that is weapon feel. Like talking about Respawn earlier, I think Bungie are obviously my other favourite FPS studio, and a gun like that, a gun like Thunderlord, the lightning firing heavy machine gun they released ago. I don't think I'll ever get bored of shooting it. It's got this kind of Dakar rattling Norse feel. Lightning fizzes out of popped headshots and kind of cascades around other enemies. Ads kind of just go in this like cyclone of lightning. And the game is. I'm so excited I can't speak. The game is full of guns like that. Like we talked before, James, about how every enemy in that has such a good kind of precision death animation. The heads pop like you're kind of popping bubble wrap, spouts of blood, and kind of gas venting from kind of ruptured armor. I've been playing that series now for 4 years or whatever it is, and I still look forward to firing those guns. And the game gets away with a lot because of that feel, in my opinion. And there'll be people will be, rolling their eyes at it, going, "There's other shooters on PC that feel better." I still don't think so. And actually, it feels much better on PC than it does on console, because the team at Vicarious Visions were brought in really smartly. Super optimized the game for mouse and keyboard, and I don't mean optimized in the sense of performance, sense of feel. They really kind of dialed down the recoil on certain weapons so that they felt good when using a mouse. Like I think about SMGs and hand cannons especially. They reduced the bloom of hand cannons. Bungie had this obsession with weapon bloom.
Wait, is bloom where the crosshair enlarges as you shoot?
And it shrinks back, and it also introduces kind of like ghost bullets and RNG, where even though the crosshair appears to be on the target, because it's in a high bloom state, it goes, now that bullet's missing, sorry about that, which feels terrible.
Because they added bloom in Halo Reach, and it was not in the previous games, and everybody was like, this fucking sucks.
Well,
why is this here?
Everyone's still complaining about it now, and often reference Halo Reach saying,
take a clue, Bungie, Jesus.
Yeah, I know, classic Bungie. But it also goes beyond that. It goes to... It's a funny thing Wes and I were talking about was how it seems like such a minor thing that I've forgotten, but in Destiny, when you're flying between planets and locations, you can still access your character inventory and all of the kind of the UI stuff that lets you move gear around and change how you're spec'd. And Anthem, in stark contrast, won't even let you change guns during a mission. You've got to finish the mission completely before you can change any of your gear. So even if you find gear when you're out in the wild, you can't equip it, which I find a bizarre decision in a game full of bizarre decisions so far.
Yes.
It gives you such kind of blue balls of like, well, you can't touch the toys until you're back at base, and then base you have to walk at a snail's pace, which I know they're going to fix, but haven't. But you know, the experience. I was chatting to Chris Livingston as well about like how nested the UI system was, and how like even just to launch a mission you kind of have to go into like the second layer of the map and then come back out, and how poorly designed it was for PC in terms of having to hold a key down for like 3 seconds before it'd let you swap out of a menu or do an activity and stuff like that. I think sounds like perhaps minor complaints or quibbles, but over the course of any game where you're being asked, or the hope is that you're going to play it for hundreds of hours, they become like huge problems. Do you know what I mean? It's like the kind of the pee in the bed that the princess is sleeping on that ends up leaving a huge bruise, to give a very confusing
I know. I picked it up.
It sounds like some of those problems might just be from lack of experience making this kind of game on that dev team, and like not realizing that 700 hours from now doing this, not having that utility is going to be really obnoxious. And I also wonder, I can't
understand, because we always get we get rightly called out by devs for going, well, you're not a dev, you don't understand the complexities of what went into this menu system or went into this design decision to have to walk slowly to your ship every single time. But you also want to say like, but didn't in testing, just after like half a day's play, everyone say, well, that's bad, like that's really annoying. I can't. That's what kind of blows my mind. And maybe it's just that the game has to hit a certain release date, and they know all this stuff. I'm sure they know all this stuff. They're bright people.
Yeah, I think it's going to
and they don't have the bandwidth to kind of fix some of it. But like, I think those are not insubstantial problems. And when you go back to stuff like the comms issues I was talking about earlier, that stuff where, maybe they will add text to chat at the last minute, and that will fix a lot of that. But I'd be surprised. And like, having played a ton of Destiny, I can tell you that anytime you're with randos and there's even the remotest bit of communication required, more often than not, people won't know what to do at all. It blows my mind. There's missions in Destiny where there's the most minor piece of like, you have to throw a ball to your teammate to charge it up, and that will do more damage. People still are like, I'm not passing this ball. I'm going to throw this ball. I'm the ball thrower on this team. And you're like, you must have done this strike 100 times. Like, how has this not become apparent to you? So,
well, it made me that makes me wonder. Like in testing, I'm sure they have a lot of. It's EA, it's a big company. They have groups of testers that they can have play the game who aren't, on the design team, right, and give feedback. But I imagine when like the developers at BioWare are testing the game, they're playing with other people at BioWare who work on the game. They're not just putting this live on the internet and going like, well, let's get, Joe from Florida to jump in my game here and like see what it's like to play with Joe without being on mic. And then it turns out like Joe doesn't want to share.
I mean, they must be testing stuff. Like, I mean, I also don't want to give the impression that like, Bungie doesn't mess stuff like that up, because they make mistakes that absolutely blow my mind as well. Like, just you just can't fathom what the thought process was. You only have to look at the way they switched around the weapon systems with D2 at launch and just say like, I can't imagine who was in the room when they said this is more fun, because it seemed like so patently obvious it wasn't. But the thing I really want to know about, James, which you kind of mentioned at the top of the show, was what the end game looks like, because it feels to me that all of these games tend to launch with really a shadow of an end game, because it's such a Herculean task to even release something with a working campaign and progression system and suite of loot and all of that shit work properly, abilities, everything. Like I never want to underplay like how hard I think this genre is to get out the door, let alone get right.
But I mean, any game is hard, yeah.
Of course, yeah, but these really are like, I think this shared world stuff is particularly, especially when you're asking people to keep going, like that's what we keep playing. I think it's very hard to kind of nail. But reading about the endgame stuff, it sounded to me, James, like there's effectively like 3 strong points that you're just meant to strongholds, not strong points, that you just play forever, right? Is that it?
Sorry. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. I was distracted. You went all artifacty and scary. It was horrifying.
You turned into like Max Headroom or something. It got weird.
Did what I was saying make sense, or was it just a kind of robotic rant?
No, it makes sense. Like what is the end game of this thing?
The end game of Anthem. Here's the thing. Is like I need to like say before what it is that. No, I'll just. So it's at launch it will be like legendary contracts, strongholds, which are like the strike missions that will require like 4 people to beat on higher difficulties, and dailies and weeklies and things like that. So repeatable tasks and some smaller missions, I believe. Exploration missions, excuse me, where you just go out into the world and wander and do public events and such. It sounds like fine to me because as Anthem is right now, it is one of those games that it's less like Destiny where you're working towards like a great endgame challenge. Like the raid is like the thing a lot of people play the endgame for. There's nothing clear to me that stands out like that in Anthem, and from what I played of this at this event, which was a legendary contract, which are these like randomized missions with randomized objectives and locations, and so you're never playing the same thing exactly twice. That's kind of neat. The problem is that it's just that right now you're repeating mission types over and over to get slightly better loot, harvest materials in the open world to craft more loot if it doesn't drop, to move to the next difficulty level where you will do the same thing to then min-max your build to be able to move beyond that difficulty to the next one. There's like 3 difficulties that unlock at the end game. Right now,
did you get a good sense of how much depth there is in that kind of in the creation of those builds? Could you kind of go all in on a particular play style and spec all your gear and your weapons to go, all right, I'm the combo ice storm or whatever, versus I've gone a completely different direction. I know there's 4 classes, right? And I know they have strengths and weaknesses, but like within those classes, how much scope is there for creating like radically different play styles?
It's hard to say because we had 2 hours. They just threw us on these level 30 accounts. We had some legendary gear, not a bunch, like a couple to spec our dudes out with. So we couldn't really. There wasn't time, first of all, to min-max and try and make those really spec'd out like specialized builds, and there weren't enough legendary pieces or high level loot to really see, because I feel like in the Division end game there are a lot of this seemingly broken, very satisfying builds to aim for, and my hope is that is the case. My hope is that there are some really cool synergies with weapons and gear that will make your Titan the ultimate like fire demon versus specialize in detonators and ice, or I haven't played enough of the game to understand what a specialized javelin will look like. But I don't know, like the problem for me that precludes like all this is I don't think the combat is inherently fun enough to really warrant like keep me interested in doing that and over, because we went from a level like 15 account like demo, we played the demo at this event and then moved directly to the end game, and it felt almost exactly like we were playing the same game despite being 15 levels removed.
That was one of my concerns with the loot, James. It's like looking like yes the suits are very designed, but like the kind of basic bitch weapons, not just your actual abilities, very much that like one auto rifle is an auto rifle is an auto rifle is an auto rifle. Like I didn't feel like in Destiny you get these kind of exotics which have like real lore behind them, very unique kind of play styles attached to some of them, like where you can create a build built completely around a particular gun, right? Like if you're going to use the Whisper of the Worm sniper rifle, it's going to really push you in a particular direction. And Division is less successful at that, but I think is learning. Certainly, there was some good kind of Division definitely had that capacity for real min-maxing DPS around gear sets that could be made to be quite broken with the right kind of mods and weapons that you'd really grinded to get a particular perk roll
even
on.
Like Borderlands 2 did that shit really well, where they had like good ability trees for the characters, where when you leveled all the way through that tree, you could play extremely differently than you were at the beginning of the game, and you could respec and like totally change your playstyle, and the guns were, insanely varied because there were 16 billion of them or whatever.
One caveat I'll say to this is I have seen a lot of people online say how much they enjoyed the Anthem demo and are really into the kind of world building of it and style of the combat. I've equally, like some of the guys I played Destiny with, have played it and quite quickly wrote off any notion they were going to play it again. Like, we're really turned off by what they've by what they experienced. So I don't I keep having nagging at the back of my mind the fact that am I missing something with this, because other people do seem really into it, and I'm almost certain there will be in the same way there was with D2 when it launched, a good 50 to 60 hours of building a character up, playing through the campaign, making at least one kind of end level build that you're happy with, and I think at that point you'll probably hit a brick wall in the end game and go I just don't want to do this stronghold anymore after a couple of weeks. So then the question becomes is that enough, right? The game is a $60 purchase. There's talk about some very expensive skins being in the game, and EA's kind of obfuscated around exactly what that kind of microtransaction economy looks like, how essential any of that stuff's going to be. So I think jury's still really out. My suspicion is it will experience a lot of the highs and lows that both Destiny and Division did at launch, in terms of there'll be an initial rush of excitement followed by an amount of disappointment from the people who wanted this to be their forever game. And really it's launching into the most competitive this genre has ever been, right? There's a couple of people are going to want to compare it to Destiny and Division, but that's actually really unfair because those games are 4 years old or whatever in terms of how they've been able to iterate and make mistakes and improve on their systems. But equally, it still costs $60, and that's kind of tough shit. Do you know what I mean?
I will say Oh, sorry, Wes, go for it.
I was gonna say it's kind of funny how just the marketing, the presentation, and sort of the genre that these kind of games live within affects your outlook on them, or at least my outlook. The fact that I'm not confident in Anthem's endgame being interesting. I'm not confident in it having enough variety to kind of be worthwhile past playing the first 20, 30 hours or whatever, kind of makes me not interested in it at all. Whereas if it was just presented as this is BioWare's new RPG and had the same kind of combat, I would probably be much more into the idea of playing it, because I'd be totally fine playing probably 20 hours of Anthem and then being done with that game, and I could still do that. But the whole idea of the game is that it's designed around being something you play for 200 hours, not 20 hours, and that kind of makes me just go
and to both of your points, I think they just let loose a very rough schedule, or at least I think it's just a roadmap for the first act of ongoing support for Anthem. There was a couple tweets put out by one of the developers today with some images. I'll link to those. So to your point, Wes, it's going to be that. It's going to be that game that goes forever and probably isn't as focused and for you, and probably never will be, because it's the story that we get in this game, the campaign itself, probably won't be conclusive and maybe inherently satisfying. And to Tim's point, even if what's there is a bit bare bones in the end game, we don't really know the specifics of what this additional stuff coming is. I know we'll get strongholds, we'll get story missions, we'll get changes to the world, we'll get events taking place in the world. So
did you get a chance, James, to experience, because I know with the public demo they had that kind of Storm event where like Titans being these big kind of boss type enemies were like spewing into the world, which felt very, obviously Fortnite-esque.
Yeah. I didn't get to play that, but I did talk to them at PAX West last year. Mark Dara and Mike Gamble, lead producer and lead creative director, I think. And they brought up comparisons to Fortnite and said that that Anthem will have live events in the world like that a lot. That will be a driving force, and that they might even have a layer like even further than the cube itself, like something beyond a live event. So I don't know what the hell that means, but they are definitely, I think that at the very least, like coupled with the fact that this is going to be an ongoing game that will, I'm just fascinated by the attempts to recover and change and stick with, a solid player base. That is always interesting to me, but also if they can really invigorate like the gotta be there mentality of Fortnite's successful like live events that have almost no story context at all, but are just neat. I think that might be enough to keep me around or check.
Yeah, I care less about the reason and more about just something like fresh happening.
Yep. I
wonder, did you get like enough of a sense of? I mean, BioWare is known for its stories pre Andromeda anyway. But those games traditionally have not been great at delivering a story.
Yeah.
Do you know what Anthems is going to be like?
The endgame stuff was pretty story thin, so I didn't get to see like.
I mean, the issue is how do you make a story when you're to repeat the same thing over and over again? Destiny 2 in its last expansion had a clever thing where players are actually trapped in a time loop in this city that's been kind of cursed, hence the need to kind of keep repeating the things.
Right.
And theoretically, you're trying to break the curse, which is like, actually, no one's kind of conned by like what's going on. Like everyone knows it's to justify the repetition of the missions, but at least it's something to kind of explain. It's very hard to understand why you would be doing the same strongholds like 6 months later or whatever.
I have no explanation or thought yet. I don't know. I'm not confident in the story at all at the moment, just based on time in Fort Tarsus and the brief little story missions we got in the demo. And I don't know. There's some BioWare flavor there, but I think you need to sit with BioWare stories long term. Otherwise, their characters just come off as really cliched and cartoony. Like their characters are good for how they subvert how they initially appear, I think. So we'll see. I don't know. We are running out of time though, and I want to get to this. I want you to be able to spread your seed, so to speak, Tim.
Wes, are you going to help play?
Only the important stuff. I don't know how to do that. If I can, do I need to download Hearthstone?
No, you can just watch.
All right.
I can watch. Yeah.
You can backseat drive.
Watching is a thing I can accomplish.
Looks like Tim's heading into play mode. I'll say right now, so we'll probably have time to answer questions during this as we watch Tim spread his card back. Here, do you want me to share out your BattleNet?
Yeah. If you're on, I can't promise I'll keep you, my friend, but if you're on EU and you want to play and get the card back, you don't have it already, you can add me, which is my BattleNet tag is Clarkinator, spelled how you imagine. Hashtag 2550. I've actually got someone on my friends list already who wanted to get their card back, who's a reader, so I'm going to see if they want to play first, and then hopefully James can collect some other people. But I should see any friend requests coming in. I'll try and make the games quick.
Cool. And we'll be spectating and watching.
By just stomping people? Is that the...
I wouldn't bank on it.
At this time, we'll also start collecting questions for the Q&A section of the show. So if you have any questions about PC gaming in the last couple weeks, anything looking ahead, tag PC Gamer in Twitch chat, and we'll see if we can get to your question. We do prioritize questions for the PC Gamer Club. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to club.pcgamer.com to find out more. It's just a pretty cheap subscription service that supports us directly, gives you an ad-free experience on the site, invite to our private Discord, free game each month, digital sub to the magazine, RBG handbook, and some other goodies as we get them. So it's a pretty good deal.
General feeling of satisfaction and coolness.
Exactly. It's the cool kids club.
I'm actually going to queue a ladder game first, James, because I mistook the person. Oh, here we go. We've got a request come in. Someone I played actually Destiny with in the PC Gamer Club, so I'm going to.
Right on. Cool.
Nice.
As we get that going.
Hopefully he doesn't destroy me. I think his game's just booting up at the moment.
Let me throw a question to you guys while we get this going.
Yanrin, you're not allowed to watch the stream while you're playing me. See my cards. So I feel like Crip with you sniping me.
From the Discord, Silent Marine asks, should demos make a comeback? And what distinguishes one from a beta? Lots of people played the Anthem VIP and open demo, but there's been questions on whether it should be called a beta since it was pretty different from release. And just some context, yeah, the demo version, the demo build of Anthem was snapshotted from a build a couple months old.
James, do you want to decide what deck we play you to? Can you see the screen?
Oh, wait. Let me...
It's crucial you actually switch the computer on, James.
Well, I can't watch you yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'll pick a deck
to be in a match, I think. Yeah. So, but we'll do that as soon as we can.
So, should demos make a comeback? That was basically the question, right?
Yeah.
I do miss that Xbox 360 era of like every game had a demo there for the first few years. I think that time has passed, and that's largely from an era where free-to-play games didn't exist.
You can spec that, James.
Cool. Doing it.
But I think we've seen a few games recently that have used demos to great effect. I think Resident Evil 2 had a demo, and I don't think that because it was a good game and they were confident in it, I think that probably only helped get people hyped for that game. But there are obviously cases where if your game is too simple or kind of doesn't present well in the first, hour or whatever, a demo can be a mistake.
Yeah, and I think why we don't see a lot of demos is, well, for many reasons, but it just requires a lot of extra effort from the dev team. It's not an easy thing to do. That the demo itself needs to be a flawless representation, or as flawless as it can be, of the game, and that requires a lot of resources. I get it though. On PC, it's really nice to have like a benchmark at the very least to see if you can run it. But should demos make a comeback? I would. In an ideal world, yes. But I think in the future, what you'll see is just like you'll have free trials because everyone's going for like Origin's Premier service. I know Xbox Game Pass is expanding. I think you'll be able to just try full games. For short periods of time rather than just have a demo.
Our streaming future.
Yanrin has admitted he has already got the card back, but just wanted to play us. So I've allowed that. I think it's a sign that the card back has. I've seen it a lot on Ladder. I played a little bit at lunch, and it seems to be everywhere. It's a really cool card back. It's got this this kind of peacocky, spooky animated effect. You can kind of just see it a bit in the decks here.
Diseases spread quickly. Like I've seen the Soderbergh movie. I mean,
do you know what it references, Wes?
Is it the blood plague from WoW?
It is. It's the corrupted blood incident from WoW, which Stephen wrote about on the site, where it was like a disease spread from a raid, I think, encounter, and players were kind of wiped out en masse, and it had to be hotfixed or whatever.
Yeah, it was like only supposed to be contained within the boss fight, right? But then somebody like respawned in a city with their pet or something, and then that spread it to other players. I forget.
Amazing. I love that.
So they created a card in the new set called Hakar the Soulflower. I assume that's the boss from the raid. Who does actually shuffle these corrupted blood cards into your deck. And then separately, they're running this kind of promotion where I guess Yanrin is using one of the cards, which was actually nerfed this week. I did not expect to see that, so that's quite annoying. I don't know if you got the message about the nerfs, Yanrin, but I guess that card's still fine.
Cool. Let's ask another question here. Mox.
Are you able to put up his stream, by the way, James?
Sorry.
The Hearthstone.
Oh, it's people can watch it.
It's going.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
I couldn't tell.
What there. Yeah, I know. I got to figure out a way that you guys can see what I'm doing too.
Yanrin said he did hear about the nerfs. He doesn't care.
That's the spirit. Mox asks, do you think developers currently make non-free-to-play battle royale games are going to go bankrupt or at least shitting a bit? I think it's interesting to see the immediate embrace of Apex versus the kind of mild, I don't know, zeitgeist around Blackout. Blackout was included in a like normal $60 Call of Duty package, but it was pretty well received from what I understand. I played a bit of it, not a ton, and they're very different stylistically and design wise. Blackout he was much closer to PUBG, but I don't know, if you want your battle royale game, or I don't know, any big multiplayer only game. I don't necessarily want to say this is exclusive to battle royale as a genre, but I think free to play is going to be the way to go if you want to actually make a foothold and take attention away, or at least like get enough attention from Fortnite and the established games like PUBG. And I don't really know the health of Blackout right now, but I think you got to go free to play, and I don't guarantee because I don't know Activision. They don't make sense to me. I'm surprised Blackout wasn't free to play at the start. I know it was discounted.
James, can we at least take a moment to look at those two big giants I've got on board?
Are you ready? You're set?
I've got nothing left, says January. Hopefully that's true. We're gonna silence this guy and send the big boys to the face.
I'm sure this is really strategic and interesting, the things you're doing. I don't really... I can't read Hearthstone anymore.
Are you just destroying one of our readers? Is that what's happening?
I mean, that's the plan.
It's just Tim's ego boost hour. It's okay.
Yeah, if you do want to play, add Clarkinator #2550. We'll get a couple more games in, hopefully.
Yeah.
Do you feel tough right now, Tim? Do you feel strong?
I feel like I might have overestimated how well I was doing, because now I've only got my one dude left.
That's Hearthstone. Whiplash. Emotional whiplash. Wes, do you have anything to add to that question?
It was about free-to-play games. Was it specific to Battle Royale?
Yeah.
I think it's one of those genres that has been so established in the free-to-play space that it would be pretty tough to break in at a big scale with a premium one. I think there's always room at the margins, like small teams can do something where they don't need to sell 5 million copies to make a profit. But at the kind of scale that like Apex is, I think it would be pretty tough to make that a $40 game, $60 game, and really like establish a foothold.
Yep. Nick Manley, we already talked about this, but we'll just list off some bullet points. How does Apex Legends stand out from other Battle Royale games? Bullet points is respawn system, heavy focus on squad play, like required 3-person squad play, and what else?
Great communication to aid that.
System. Yep.
Pretty streamlined looting, which I think is comparable to Black Ops or Blackout, though I haven't played that. But it's not a game where you have to fiddle around in your inventory for the most part. You can just tell at a glance, do I need this item? What gun is it going to go on? And when you pick it up, it just slots in. You don't have to drag and drop or anything.
Yep. Cool. Move on to the next question here. Deej. Hey, Deej, how you doing? Any games you're looking forward to this year? So there's a ton coming out in the next couple months. But anything on your radar right now? Anything standing out to you two? You join this match.
Well, keeping with the Respawn theme, it sure seems like they're saying Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is going to come out this year.
Oh, really?
So I'm very curious. I mean, it was supposed to come out this year, and in their earnings call yesterday, EA said we're excited to add that to our like sports games this fall. So I guess it's still coming out, but we still haven't seen anything from that thing.
Yeah, it's been in the works for a while too. When I went to Respawn a couple of years ago to see Titanfall 2, before that was even announced, there was a big wing of their building like blocked off with C-3PO cardboard and cut out, guarding the door. Weren't even allowed to look through the little windows. So hopefully that's good. I mean, based on like the quality of Apex's pretty much an iteration of, or at least like takes a lot from Titanfall, so I'm not surprised it feels good. I'm extremely curious to see what the hell Star Wars thing they're making. That's a good call. For me...
Also, Outer Worlds, Spelunky 2.
Yeah.
Probably two of my big ones.
Yeah. Outer Worlds, Spelunky 2. For me, gosh, I don't know. I'm just morbidly curious about Anthem at this point. I'll want to check out Far Cry New Dawn because Montana. But
Phoenix Point, which just got delayed, yes. I think is on it's on the cover of PC Gamer. I'm looking forward to a lot.
Cool.
Sekiro, James.
Oh, gee, that should. You know what? I think I always forget about this game because I'm actively trying to avoid seeing or reading anything about it, which is
you want to go in fresh.
Yeah, I think that's like a lot of the power around playing a Dark Souls for the first time or a From Software game for the first time is in where it takes you and being surprised by that. So I know like Game Informer put out a bunch of coverage that I've just been avoiding like the plague last month. So we'll see if I can make it. It's coming out next month. Got time for a couple more. How you doing, Tim? Can you give us an update here?
I went onto the ladder and I'm getting destroyed in this game.
Are you at least spreading? No, they already have the disease. Damn. Well,
I think maybe everyone's got the thing.
That didn't take long. Oh well, we tried. Jules, good question from Jules here. Do you think the bubble known as, quote, games as a service will burst? I think the hardest selling point for these microtransaction driven games is that most people already have one or two that they sink their evenings into. I don't know who Apex appeals to that doesn't already have a game just like it. And that's certainly something I think we're all thinking about lately, is these games that are designed to be played forever. We talked about endgames in the middle of the show. These battle royale games that are just constantly renewing themselves, like Fortnite and PUBG. And yeah, I don't know. Wes, what do you think? Is that a bubble that can burst?
I think less burst and more like deflate.
Yeah.
But I think that's more on the single player is the wrong word, but the Destiny, Anthem, kind of co-op story driven side. Like I think we're probably at the peak for that genre being a thing that all of the AAA studios are doing right now. And I think it'll take a couple either failures or, deliver below expectations for them to kind of pull back on that a little bit, or for it to just not be in vogue anymore. I think there's less danger for games like Apex, where a lot of it is just kind of like, nobody plays the same game forever. Like some people do, right? But for the most part, I bet there are a lot of people playing Apex right now who, if you'd asked them a year and a half ago, would have said like, PUBG is my jam. Like this is the game I play with my friends every night. I love it. I'm going to be playing it for a long time. And now they're just want to try something new. They're excited about a new game that does something different, and they won't play Apex forever. They'll switch over to something else at some point. And the fact that it's free to play means that the design of that game can accommodate that kind of thing, assuming they're getting enough new players in there to spend $10-20 on skins. Like they don't need people to play it forever. They just need a steady stream of new people playing it for a while.
Yep. Yeah, and I think like you mentioned in one of the last questions about the free-to-play battle royale games, there will probably always be room for smaller communities at the margins of these, like sustainable for games as a service, game as a live game. I don't know what the fuck we're calling these. To be sustainable, developers can ideally scale to their production to suit whatever audience they have. And I would hope that we don't just have these big pillars, these titans that absorb everyone's attention and time. I would hope that, oh gosh, I don't know, something like a Realm Royale is an awful example, but when Warframe first came out, something like that can still find a foothold and grow over time. I don't think that is ever going to not be the case.
But it does seem like it's getting harder and harder.
Yes, definitely. we have time for maybe one more question.
That didn't go so well.
Gosh. I'm sorry, Tim. Okay, Stabby McStab12 in Twitch chat asks, will the Resident Evil 2 remake spark a new trend in game reboots that don't just reskin and update graphics, but also change game mechanics and gameplay while staying true to the tone and setting? If so, what would you like to see rebooted in this fashion?
I feel like that's already been a pretty common thing, right? Like there's already been many years worth of remakes that rejigger certain elements of games. It's a little different than the HD remaster.
Yeah, I feel like Resident Evil 2 is maybe one of the more prolific games that has gone through, or at least like the remake itself is one of the more striking and obvious, because it is a full-blown just reimagining of a lot of what Resident Evil 2 originally was. I mean, like, yeah, so it's not a new trend, and I think remake is the wrong word. It's adaptation. It's like an interpretation of what that game was and felt like to play when it came out. I don't know, like what would I like to see be reinterpreted in that way? Shit. I have no memories of old games. They just get replaced with new ones immediately.
This guy's got the card back too. Everyone's got it. This is a wash. The whole ladder's infected.
Everyone's got your seed, disease, your love.
There's probably a lot of like late 90s, early 2000s PC shooters that could have a great modern reinterpretation. Like, I don't think necessarily No One Lives Forever needs a remake. Like, that game probably still holds up pretty decently, but there are probably games in that vein that having a modern reimagining would be great, just to like kind of brush up on the shooting tech and the geometry, the amount of geometry they're able to work with, that kind of thing.
Yeah, here's just a couple. Like Deus Ex, original Deus Ex would be really fascinating to me. We're sort of getting that with, I don't really know the System Shock remake, if that's like just up-resing a lot of stuff or if they're reimagining it to some degree. And like Thief, I don't know, I think a lot of like old why can't I remember the name of the genre? Immersive Sims, Christ.
Immersive Sims.
Yeah. We're thinking ahead of their time or working under a lot of restraint. So it'd be cool to see those reimagined like to their fullest potential, even if like they would end up being a lot like unsurprising. It would just be very neat to me.
This one's going badly as well.
Good question though. Thank you for that. Are we excited for the Outer Worlds? I think we all are. Cool.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's all the questions we have, and we're going over time here. And Tim he's winning at the moment.
No, that's incorrect, James.
Oh, you're not? I don't know. You have a higher number than him. That's good though, right?
In this instance, not really.
Should we let this last match play out live before we say goodbye?
Just everything I know about math, Tim has just spit in the face of it.
Yeah, I don't even know what's going on here. For our audio listeners at home, what I'm looking at is little ovals pointing at each other.
I can talk about it a bit. I'm playing as aggressive odd mage, who's gonna die because I'm playing a priest, and priests are just degenerate scumbags. Basically, their whole game plan is based on stealing your stuff, boring you to death. Anyone who plays priest should be banned from the ladder in the game.
I thought Steven played priest, or maybe.
Well, there's your
typical.
Steven would play priest, yeah.
I'm gonna get out of this game and queue one more up.
Well, if you don't have the Corrupted Blood card back in Hearthstone already, just message Tim on Twitter and he can hook you up with the disease.
Yeah.
I briefly opened my DMs. I never do that.
Well, there you go. This is the time, everyone. This is the time. But that's about all the time we have for today. So again, bother Tim. get his Cresty disease and join the fun.
If you run into us in Apex Legends, please don't shoot us.
Yes, please
just let us win.
Let us win.
It'd be really nice.
I've had second. That's the thing I was going to say. I got second, like probably.
Have you won a
times.
game, Wes?
I did at the preview event, but I deserve very little credit for that victory. Since
I came second in one game, but that was largely based on us going to the absolute edge of the map.
I've had a few really like tense second place finishes where it's like, okay, we know there's one other team, and then just get like annihilated at the end. So
it's heartbreaking.
I'll get that win. I want to get it before James just to make him feel even worse.
I've been playing so much. Next week we'll have plenty to talk about, I'm sure. I don't know. Gosh, there are probably some embargoes lifting. Who knows on some games that we can't mention, but I would imagine we'll have something to talk about related to the glut of stuff happening.
Some Metro maybe, some Far Cry maybe, something.
All those details incoming. But it's a very busy season. Maybe some more Apex talk too. But until next week, thanks for hanging out, everyone. You can get the show, youtube.com/PCGamer, PCGamer.com/tag/podcast, or just join us here, twitch.tv/PCGamer every week at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Until then, see you later.